I'm no fan of Chris Cuomo, who's a host on CNN. He is. There are I have many problems with him. He clearly has a pro-establishment bias. He takes whatever the government says, whatever people in the political establishment, whatever the mainstream media says, he takes that as fact, almost unquestioningly. He's dripping with the false neutrality bias. He basically tries to make everything as if it's 50-50, even though it's not. There could be an issue, and he says, oh, the Republicans do it, but up here, sometimes the Democrats do it too, so I guess it's 50-50. No, usually the Republicans are a lot worse, and if you were being objective and doing your job, you would state that, but instead he always wants to play the fucking fool and play ignorant and like act like he doesn't know what's going on. He'd be like, hey man, I'll just tell you a couple, I'll give you a broad reading of the situation, and I'll say this side says this and this side says that, and I'm gonna let you decide what's what. So that's another problem I have with him. He's also very dismissive of leftists in this country and leftist policies like Medicare for all, universal free college, living wage, things like that. He's very against ending the wars. He's against leftist policies. So I am in no way a fan of Chris Cuomo. But a couple months ago, he did an interview with Chuck Schumer where he asked some very pointed and relevant questions. So I'm gonna play the interview, come back, and we'll discuss.
Congratulations on your new show.
Appreciate
Glad
it.
to be here.
Good. It's good to have you early on, kind of set the tone about who we think matters. So this is good. Let's talk.
You matter.
Let's talk politics, then we'll go into policy.
Great.
Joe Manchin, Senator of West Virginia, says he's open to backing Trump in 2020. When does he get a phone call from the Senate Democratic leader?
Our senators are wonderful people. We have great unity in our caucus, and one of the reasons we do is I let people come to their own decisions. I'll tell them what I think, but there's no arm twisting. There's no you'll lose your committee. I won't put bills on the floor. I've had to do none of that. And people come together. Joe Manchin is a guy who likes to talk to everybody and listen to them, and almost inevitably he does what's right for West Virginia.
I might back Trump in 2020. Never heard a sitting Democrat or Republican say that about a president from the out party.
I have faith Joe Manchin will come to the right decision for West Virginia. He almost always has. People never thought, he was one of our strongest people on health care. Why? Because the people of West Virginia so desperately need health care.
Is this a reflection of the weakness of the Democratic Party in states like West Virginia?
We've stayed totally united. We are doing so much better than people think. There's a public poll that showed Manchin up 13 points over his opponent.
Why would he say something like this?
Joe Manchin always keeps his options open to do what's best for West Virginia. I have confidence he'll do the right thing.
The idea of why he's doing it. He says, Washington Democrats are making it more difficult for me to be a West Virginia Democrat. We keep hearing this, that the Democratic Party writ large is a problem, and that people are going to have to go on their own if they want to win.
I think 2016 is a reflection of that. I think it's all changed. We are focused in our caucus like a laser on the middle class, helping those who are not in the middle class get to the middle class, helping people who are in the middle class stay there. The difference on economic issues between the more moderate members of our caucus and the more liberal members of our caucus is rather small. And that's why on every major vote you've had total unity in our caucus.
But you've also gotten nothing done.
Well, we're not in charge.
But yeah.
I've had to watch that clip at least 3 times now, and somehow I've managed to maintain the same level of rage and disgust for Chuck Schumer, because this interview just puts on display of how much of an ineffectual leader he is, and he is the top Democrat in the Senate. He's the minority leader in the Senate. So to have such a weak, ineffectual person at that position, it does make a difference. Even though the Democrats don't have a majority in the Senate, it does make a difference that Chuck Schumer is such a bitch. And I'll get into that in this interview. So the first question that Chris Cuomo asked Chuck Schumer was about a statement from Joe Manchin. He says Manchin said he's open to supporting Trump 2020. When should he be expecting a call from the minority leader? Now, that's a legitimate question. That might not have been the first question that I asked him. My first question could have been a policy question, but overall, that's a good start, good question by Chris Cuomo, because that is a big issue, right? So Chuck Schumer's response is, our senators are wonderful people. We have great unity in our caucus, and one of the reasons we have such great unity is because I let everyone make their own decisions. Okay, first of all, that is a lie. That's a lie in two ways, actually. The first way, that there's unity in the Democratic Party or in the caucus in the Senate. No, there isn't, because you have people who caucus. Bernie Sanders isn't technically a Democrat, but he caucuses with the Democrats, so he's included in this discussion. So you have people like Bernie Sanders, who is invoked the War Powers Act and got a vote to get us out of Yemen. So you have progressives like Bernie Sanders, who are for single-payer healthcare, Medicare for all, who's for free college, who's for regulating the banks and regulating industry. People like Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren in the same caucus as Joe Manchin and Claire McCaskill and fucking Joe Donnelly and Chuck Schumer. And you are going to come out and pretend like, oh no, everything's fine. We're all getting along, and there's no disagreements here. Obviously, there's huge policy disagreements between the establishment wing of the party and the progressive wing of the party. So that's the first lie. The second lie is, no, they don't make their own decisions. They do what their donors want them to do most of the time, and this is very verifiable. You can go and check on Open Secrets or anywhere that tracks money in politics. A lot of these votes, they're just going along with whatever. If the industry gave them money, they're going to vote along with whatever the industry wants. So Debbie Wasserman Schultz, God damn it, Debbie Wasserman Schultz takes money from banks and payday lenders. Predatory payday lenders, and then she always votes to deregulate their industry, which gives them millions of dollars, if not billions of dollars. So these politicians know where their money is coming from, so they're going to do favors to keep that money coming in. So the idea that everybody's independent-minded in the Senate and everybody's there just doing what they think is best for the American people is fucking laughable and stupid. So the donors make the decisions. So at one point in that answer, Chuck Schumer begins to brag about how he doesn't try to twist arms to get conservative Democrats like Manchin and McCaskill to vote with the party on certain issues, on important issues. To that, I say, maybe you should. Maybe you should do your fucking job. Because what's going on between the conservative establishment Democrats, the centrist Democrats in the Senate and the Republicans in the Senate is fucking gross, because a lot of them end up voting with the Republicans a lot of the time, and it's not on small things either. It's on very big important issues. A few of those times were you had Joe Manchin voting to confirm Brett Kavanaugh. Brett Kavanaugh has lied to Congress multiple times. He lied to Congress in his hearings, confirmation hearings. This time to be on the Supreme Court. He lied last time when he went to be put on a federal court. He lied when he was testified under oath when he was working in the Bush administration. So he's a fucking proven liar, committed perjury a number of times in front of Congress, and Joe Manchin is going to vote for him to be on the Supreme Court. More than that, Brett Kavanaugh, he was George Bush's staff secretary. So every piece of paper, every memo that went on George W. Bush's desk for the time that he was staff secretary, Brett Kavanaugh had to sign off on. So all the memos for the illegal torture, unconstitutional torture, Brett Kavanaugh signed off on that. On Guantanamo Bay, on all the lies and the deceptions to get us into the illegal war in Iraq that killed minimum 200,000 civilians, possibly over 1 million innocent people killed in Iraq. He signed off on all those fucking memos. He signed off on the illegal, unconstitutional NSA spying, which allows the NSA to collect everybody's emails, phone calls, text messages, your internet history, all of that stuff. Brett Kavanaugh completely violating the Fourth Amendment of the Constitution that requires a warrant for stuff like that. The government it needs a warrant to collect stuff like that. But Brett Kavanaugh signed off on all of that shit. And then Joe fucking Manchin, a Democrat, voting to confirm him onto the fucking Supreme Court. Are you serious? Joe fucking Manchin. And it's always Joe Manchin. It will always fucking be Joe Manchin. Furthermore, a bunch of Dems voted to deregulate Wall Street multiple times since Trump's taken office. Multiple times they voted with the Republicans to undo the fucking weak sauce regulations that were put in place in Dodd-Frank. They voted to get rid of those regulations so that the banks can continue to do all their risky shit, all their fraud and illegal activities that crashed the economy in 2008, and it crashed the economy before then, and it's going to crash the economy again. But the Democrats like Joe Manchin and Claire McCaskill, and I'm pretty sure Chuck fucking Schumer, because Chuck Schumer takes more Wall Street money than anybody in the fucking Senate. All these Democrats who are supposed to be fighting for workers and supposed to be fighting for the poor and the working class and the middle class, they're voting to give Wall Street more tax cuts and more deregulation. At some point, the Democrats voted again, to reauthorize the illegal NSA spying. Of course, they voted to confirm Rick fucking Perry to be the secretary, the energy secretary, and Scott Pruitt to run the EPA. First of all, Rick Perry is a notorious fucking idiot. He might be the dumbest person in modern politics. He's definitely top 20 list of dumbest people in modern politics, and I do not say that lightly. He's known his name is synonymous with fucking idiocy and incoherent rambling. So anytime anybody mentions the name Rick Perry, it's fucking immediately ensued by fucking laughter. So Democrats, like again, Joe fucking Manchin voted to confirm Rick Perry to be the energy secretary. On top of him being just a fucking idiot and not knowing what he's doing, or not being informed on the issue of climate change and all that stuff, which is important for a job at the energy department. Rick Perry are at the fucking cusp of destroying the planet with climate change. We are the U.S. government report, the UN report, any fucking climate report you want to look at says we have about 10 years to go to 100% completely renewable energy. If there's a fucking snowball chance in hell if we're going to try to reverse the effects of climate change. At such a fucking crucial time, you pick somebody who is a lackey to the energy industry, who was making millions of dollars on the board of an energy company, the same company that was illegally building the DAPL pipeline back in 2015 and 2016, 2014 too. That same fucking, you're gonna allow him to be the head of the energy department, the energy department who has a huge role and would have a huge role in transforming us from fossil fuels to renewable energy, to wind energy, to solar energy, to hydroelectric plants, whatever the fuck else we're going to get to transfer from fossil fuels. The energy department will have a huge role in that. And you're going to fucking vote for Rick Perry and then vote Scott Pruitt to be the head of the EPA, who fucking gutted the EPA. Scott Pruitt, I think he sued the EPA 14 fucking times when he was Attorney General for Oklahoma. So somebody who sued the EPA over the Clean Air and Clean Water Act, somebody who has taken hundreds of thousands of dollars from coal companies and the fossil fuel industry, somebody who is a proven bitch and lapdog to the fossil fuel industry, you're gonna vote to allow him to be the fucking head of the EPA, where he then gutted the entire fucking department, the entire fucking agency Scott Pruitt gutted. It's basically non-existent at this point. So yes, Chuck Schumer, maybe you should be twisting some fucking arms. Maybe you should be calling some people in your office saying, hey, look, I know you think you're playing politics here, like people like Joe Manchin call him into your fucking office, tell him I know you think you're playing politics and you're doing what's best for your reelection, but let me tell you something. If you vote for Scott Pruitt to be the fucking head of the EPA, the Democratic Party will support your primary opponent, will give them money, will shut you out, will fucking call you out for the piece of shit sellout that you are, because the only reason you're doing this is because you're taking money from fossil fuels as well. That's what you do to Joe Manchin. That's how you call Joe Manchin to the office and you fucking twist his arm. So yeah, maybe Chuck Schumer, you should be doing that instead of fucking going out bragging about how you're not doing your fucking job in interviews. Furthermore, he says, quote, there's very little difference between moderate Dems and left-wing Democrats when it comes to economic policy. Are you fucking kidding me? Are you fucking kidding me, Chuck Schumer? So are you saying that Bernie Sanders' economic policy is almost exactly the same as Cory Booker, Claire McCaskill, Joe Manchin, and all these and yourself and all these other corporate Democrats in the Senate? Are you saying your economic policy is so fucking similar? Well, I just have to fucking disagree with that, because Bernie wants single payer, Bernie wants a living wage for workers, Bernie wants $15 living wage, he wants to lower drug prices, he wants free public education, including college, he wants to regulate fucking Wall Street, he wants universal basic income, and he wants to end the wars, and he wants workers' rights and unions. All of those things are issues that all those corporate Democrats that I've already named have spent their entire careers voting against. They've always sided with the establishment, the corporations, over workers. They always sided with the rich over the middle class and the working class and the poor. So for you to fucking say, come out bold-faced and say, no, we're all the same, there's no real big difference between our economic policies. I just listed some very huge, very important economic policy issues. And there is very big disagreements between the progressive wing of the party, the Bernie Sanders wing of the party, and the establishment wing of the party on those very issues. You guys are on exact opposite sides of those issues. So why with the fucking pretense and the pretending that everything is fine? No, it's not fine. You guys have differences. There's a civil war going on in the party for who's going to control it from here on out. So accept that and say what your position is on that. Don't pretend like it's not happening. So how the fuck can you be the minority leader in the Senate, the top Democrat in the Senate, the person who's in charge of the entire fucking caucus, and you just don't know this? And you come out and say something so fucking stupid like there is very little difference on economic policy between the centrist and the progressives. How the fuck can you say that? Like, that's some shit you would expect somebody who isn't into politics, somebody who has a regular fucking job and doesn't really follow this closely. But you're one of the top Democrats in the whole entire fucking country, and you're so fucking clueless into what's going on, into the going-ons of your party. Either you're clueless or you're just fucking lying about it. Now, just one more thing, because I can end up doing an entire show on this shitty interview. At one point, Schumer was pressed on the state of the Democratic Party, and his response is, quote, "We're doing better than most people think." Chuck, what the fuck are you talking about? What the fuck are you talking about? This is the same Democratic Party that just in 2016 was caught red fucking handed in broad daylight rigging the primary so that they could prop up the establishment candidate, Hillary Clinton, over the grassroots progressive candidate, Bernie Sanders. So they were caught red-handed doing the biggest election fraud in the history of the United States, because they did it on the entire Democratic primary. The whole shit was rigged against Bernie Sanders, and it's been proven in court. The DNC, basically, the lawyers in court basically came out and said, this is a private organization and we don't actually have to do what the voters want. the leaders of the party get to decide who the nominee is at the end of the day. You have the agreement between the fundraising agreement between the Hillary Clinton campaign and the DNC that was signed before the first primary even happened in 2016. So they had a fundraising agreement that to raise money with the Hillary Clinton campaign, and they were going to split it with the DNC. So they had Debbie Wasserman Schultz, who was Hillary Clinton's campaign manager when she ran in 2008. She was the head of the DNC during the primary. They limited. They had a record low number of debates because anytime they had a debate, Bernie Sanders would come out and he would show out and embarrass Hillary Clinton. So they knew that they had to limit the number of debates. So they had a record low number of debates in the primary season. So the same Democratic Party that got caught red-handed in broad daylight with the biggest election fraud in the history of the United States. And then that same candidate that they stole the primary for ended up losing to a fucking circus clown, buffoon, ignoramus, Donald Trump, reality star, fucking host, asshole. Ended up losing a fucking election to that guy. One of the most unpopular people who ever run for president in the history of the fucking country. You will lose election to that guy. On top of that, you lost the House and you lost the Senate. Yeah, but well, obviously after the 2018 midterms, they got the House back. But they still lost the House and the Senate to these fucking far right-wing Republican assholes, which is astounding in itself. Lost over 1,000 seats in state and federal elected offices. Lost the majority of state governorships. This same disastrous, imploded fucking carcass of a Democratic Party, Chuck Schumer's gonna come out and say we're doing better than most people fucking think. This is a belief that is very common among corporate Democrats, and I can only come up with two explanations for this. Either you are so incredibly out of touch that you can't tell that the party's imploded and that there's a civil war going on for who's going to lead the party in the direction of the Democratic Party. And this is a civil war between the grassroots progressive base of the Democratic Party and the establishment elite who are running the party. So, and the second option, or all of this is happening and you just want to save face and pretend like everything is fine. And honestly, either one is terrible because it shows you can't accurately diagnose a problem, much less fix it. So be warned that this is the kind of weakness and ineffectual strategy you can come to expect from the Democratic Party in 2019, especially under the leadership of Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi. They will roll over every fucking chance they get. I promise.